Thank you everyone for joining. I am definitely very excited. When I first heard about this group from an email, I was like, what? There's something like that that exists. I'm really, really excited to be here. And yeah, so my story with Legion, it goes back to, I could think back to my early days when I was in junior high and high school. I was obsessed with magazines. I read all the latest teen magazines, and I had big dreams of working at a magazine company. Like, I just knew that's where I was going to be because I thought it was so cool. And I loved just the stories and the artwork and all of that. Well, when I graduated high school, I got to college, and I would say probably within the first couple of years, my dreams of working at an agency started to kind of turn a bit. And at the time, this would have been around 2009, 2010, a lot of things were happening in the digital space. At the time, there was social media really catching on with Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Even I think I created my profile back probably in 2009. And I started to really see the turn. And I'll never forget, I had a professor, her name was Professor Cole at Cal State Fullerton. She had told us, all as her students, that we needed to begin to pay attention to this change that was happening, and that this was something that was going to revolutionize the industry as we knew it. And at the time, you know, a lot of the classes I was in were still very traditional, in a sense of just, you either went the agency route or maybe the corporate route. Marketing was still, I would say, very traditional in a sense of things with print, TV, all of that. The whole social media, email was still very new at the time. And she told us, look, you don't have a choice if you want to learn this and, you know, be a part of what was happening. We had to learn it, and had to learn it in order to understand how it would work for business. And I'll never forget, because that day, I remember it was, you know, I think I might have had MySpace and possibly Facebook, but all the rest, I was like, I don't want to do it. But after that conversation, I said, I'm going to go sign up for everything that's out there, and I'm going to learn how to use it. And her advice was probably the best piece of advice I had in my career, because it drastically shifted the direction. After that experience in her class, my first internship out of college was with a shoe company called Chic Shoes. They have a lot of locations all over the US. And there was when I really started to understand the power of social media and just kind of creating that demand, especially when it comes to cult cultures like those who are kind of like sneakerheads and stuff like that. And being an events marketing intern there, we would host these different events all throughout the US to get people to come and just be able to interact with the brand. We had a lot of acts that would come and perform, anything from like rappers and singers and models. And we really were just trying to create and foster this culture around both the shoes as well as the arts. And I got a lot of really good experience just on the power of social media and using that to just drive people to these events. Following there, I ended up at a small digital agency, and that's where I really started to understand the connection when it came to lead gen and demand gen and all of these tools and things. And at the time, marketing automation was still fairly new. I remember being tasked with researching a lot of the vendors that were out there, such as Marketo, 𝗟𝗲𝘀, and a few others. And I really started to piece together, oh, wow, like we can actually, track people through the funnel and see from our marketing efforts how that led them to convert and become a customer and so on and so forth. And once I kind of understood those dots and started connecting how all of this worked together, I was hooked. I loved it. I thought, this is what I want to do. And following there, I remember being at an e-commerce company, and we sold cosmetics. And I remember I had a manager who actually asked me, she was like, oh, do you think, you're going to go into this whole digital marketing thing? And at the time, this was probably around 2013. And she said, I don't know if that's really going to pan out, and what if that's really going to go anywhere. And I was like, kind of insulted, because a lot of my experience up to that point had been just focused on digital. And to me, seeing how everything worked together and connecting all the dots, I was thinking, well, where else would this go? Like, the traditional route, I couldn't see doing that. But I don't know, maybe it was her own insecurities or whatever, because I think a lot of her own experience was very focused on traditional, and she just thought, I guess, I was going down the wrong path. But I didn't listen to that. It was just something inside of me that always knew, like, this is the direction I wanted to go. And even being there at the cosmetic company, I remember that's where I really got a lot of experience seeing the whole power of influencer marketing. That was still new at the time. By this time, it was around 2014. And being able to see how influencers could drive demand just by a simple post on their YouTube or Instagram. And I'll never forget this one particular blogger. She had posted a video using one of our blushes. And this particular blush was not a sexy color blush. Like, it was actually a very bizarre color blush. If I don't even know why they made it in that color. But for those who were more fair skinned, you could use that blush as more of like a bronzer or contour. Not trying to go too far into makeup, but that's what she had showed. And we always had trouble selling that particular color. But when she posted that video, because of her following and the people who truly, believed in her and all the things that she said, all of a sudden the orders were flying in the window for that particular color. And we were like, what? Because we probably had buckets just full in the stockroom of that color. But that again was a time where I was like, wow, really understanding just the power of demand. And, when you have the right person and someone who really their opinion is valued, how powerful that could be for your product, for your brand. And from there, I went to do social media for a healthcare company. And that particular company was probably where I had some of the best and like most hands-on fun experience, just doing everything with lead gen and demand gen. I got hired there at a time where the company was just going through digital transformation. So they rebuilt their whole marketing team from the ground up, and were looking for key digital marketing folks in web design, social media, you name it, all of that. And I got to be a part of the groundwork, like starting from literally nothing. We even did a full web redesign of the whole website, and completely changing from what I would call more of the brochure style of just saying, this is who we are, this is what we do, to actually driving demand, driving interest, creating landing pages, things like that. And that was so cool, so incredible, just to from zero. And then, we first started, we were getting our first 10, 20 leads a month. To by the time I left, we were averaging probably like 500 leads a month, and who knows now. And that was over the course of 3 years. And during there, I would say I also just learned about the power of personalization as well. You know, a lot of times with marketing, I feel like personalization is something that's always talked about and people kind of vaguely understand. But I think there was where I really got to strategize with our sales team to add that personalization beyond just the elements of an email, but being able to connect those emails to what the sales rep was calling about, to even inviting to special events and tying that all together. And that was just a really incredible experience that I'll never forget, because I really think I learned a lot of just valuable things when it came to strategy. And from there, I focused next on purely demand gen. The company I worked at after that was focused on real estate and finance, and they had a whole program dedicated to targeting key bankers and decision makers at the banks and stuff like that. And so there was where I probably really felt the fire of understanding having almost, well, having quotas really of, you know, leads expected, and being able to push and pull levers with what we were doing with our strategy to help drive those leads and hopefully make those quotas as well. And that role was definitely intense, but I appreciate a lot of the process that I learned there of being organized, really understanding your target market, your audience, diving deep into how that works with your CRM, your sales team, all of that. It was a lot more process driven because the demand was so high and the expectations were high for us to meet. We had to be that way. And ultimately that led me to where I'm at now, which is McKesson. So I'm in marketing operations. Our team is focused a lot on the marketing automation platform, and we partner with a lot of other teams within McKesson to bring all of our campaigns to life and support the customer journey. And I think, yeah, in this role, it's definitely been a change of pace from the kind of hustle and grind of, you know, just trying to get leads to being more process driven and working more collaboratively, because McKesson is a very big company. So there's a lot of different teams we have to work with in order to get our jobs done. But it's been great just learning that and understanding more about the process. And that's what's led me to where I am today.
I love it. And now, Britney, when me and you were talking a week or two ago in regards to all your experiences, which have been incredible, between beauty to, you know, in fashion, with real estate and alike, one thing that you had mentioned to me was some of your experiences with former bosses, people who were kind of guiding the way, but nonetheless, maybe not guiding the way. How was your experience as a Black woman in this industry that was expanding, some people believing in it, some people not believing in it? What was your experience as who you are with those bosses, and what was the effects thereof?
Yeah, I will definitely say a lot of past bosses probably were not the most supportive. I don't think I had, there's only one boss that I can think of who I feel really helped kind of foster and try to, you know, help me grow in my path. I would say a lot of the past bosses, like the one I mentioned at the beauty company, were, you know, discouraging me from going into this. And another boss I had who just, I just don't think he really took the time to understand, you know, from me as a person and what I needed to succeed.
Gotcha. And now of the bosses, were they equal male, female? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been pretty equal throughout. I've had both male and female. I've generally been the only woman of color on a lot of the teams that I've been on. But yeah, it's been pretty balanced in terms of the bosses.
Gotcha. Did you find it challenging to kind of navigate if you're the only one? Tell us a little bit about that experience as well.
Yeah, it's I would say in one of my roles, I remember when there was a promotion coming up, and I did have someone tell me once that, oh, well, you're not gonna get it. The other guy will get it because, he's white. And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? I was thinking based on just my skills and all the work that I had done, I felt that I would qualify for the promotion. But there have been times where I've had, people make comments like that. Growing up, I grew up in a predominantly white school and town. So I guess being the only one has been a part of my life for so long. Sometimes I forget about it, but there are constant reminders, I will say, of people that remind you of who you are.
Gotcha. No, and I think that's so true for so many people, especially on this call as well. We've had an opportunity to hear from not only the group members, but also from other speakers who've actually had similar backgrounds, be it military, via where they grew up in the country. And again, and having, in essence, understanding the balance between it. And I think being able to kind of navigate, understanding, knowing who you are, but being able to be extremely comfortable in all atmospheres is one of the kind of the secrets to success, especially as a person of color. Talk to me a little bit. Again, I think that advisor that talked to you about the fact that they didn't think this is where the way to go was truly, I'm sure they were, kind of eating their words right now, especially we live in a world where influencers are incredible. One of my good friends right now has a son who's an incredible athlete in Texas. And he is now, again, with the new NCAA rules, you have the ability to become an influencer and get paid for images that are alike. You are for speaking engagement, things of that nature. What's your thoughts in regards to, if you had to give advice to a young person who is thinking about, where the industry is right now, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say definitely learn everything you can. That's one thing. I've never been shy to take advantage of a learning opportunity, even if it was something that wasn't necessarily my role at a company. I would get to know the people who worked in that role, and I always was curious, and people would give me access to different tools and software, and I would teach myself. And I've had these conversations with my cousin who's she's about 7 years younger, and I've told her, like, when you have certain opportunities that come across your path, take advantage of that and be that kind of self-starter to learn as much as you can.
Excellent. And I know that you are a proud member of the Women of Martech. And again, tell us a little bit about that. I think that our audience, again, who will be listening to this recording in the future, again, would love to know as far as the networking, because I think that's a critical part of that's sometimes missing, especially within the the Black community, where sometimes we feel like we're in a silo. It's us by ourselves. We sit back and we think that we have to do this by ourselves. We don't reach back. We don't pull from above to kind of elevate ourselves. So tell us a little bit about your networking within that group. And we, of course, have, I think, Kathy, the CEO of it, is on here as well. But tell us a little bit about your engagement there.
Yeah, well, I'm a fairly new member, but I will say, I mean, just from how I found you guys was that email, and just being able to connect with other women in the industry. It's been huge, and I've been a part of several different women's groups that are focused either on marketing or communications, things like that. And it's been great to network with other women, anything from advice. I know on Slack, there's some channels I'm in, some women's channels I'm in there where, you know, sometimes navigating corporate life as a woman, there's different things that come up, and it's nice to have these women to turn to and pose these questions to and get advice or help on tough situations.
Excellent. It was interesting. Myself and Matt Tillman and Chad Williamson, again, a bunch of us actually had a chance to attend a conference probably almost a year ago. And we were at this conference, and here it is. We had maybe about 4 or 5, Black men all together. And what we did was, what was fascinating is that we felt some kind of way. We felt incredibly lifted, but also felt as though it was almost awkward, because never had we kind of all grouped together just to sit back and chit chat. We weren't planning to kind of take over the world. We were just having fun as, as colleagues and peers. And again, and I loved it. And so now we make a point to make sure we kind of make a bullseye and sit back, oh, I see you. And we almost run to each other, which I love. Tell me, have you had a chance to go to any kind of conferences or, just have an opportunity to bond with other women in that kind of way? And what have been your thoughts?
Yeah, there's she's actually one of my closest friends I met at Adobe Summit, which is a huge conference. But back in 2019, just networking and talking to people while there, we happened to sit next to each other and realized we both were from Dallas area. And even more like kind of just weird, it turns out the company she was working at was a company I had interviewed for once. And it was just a very strange connection, but I love to take advantage of those opportunities at conferences. I know with all of the pandemic stuff, I haven't gotten to do that as much, but I think it's a great way to connect with other women and just other people in general. Like I have tons of people I've met at different conferences that I'm still connected with to this day.
You mentioned that the company that you're in now is pretty large, right? How many people do you think there is?
Oh, it's altogether, it's 76,000 employees.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's massive. Okay. Do they have a DE&I program? Are there initiatives within that organization that are bringing, helping, diversify that organization at all?
We just rolled out a new DEI program. I want to say that was last year because they hired a new SVP who's overseeing it. And I know even just recently on our intranet, I was reading about some of the upcoming events and trainings they have.
Do you feel that it's helps or like that the organization that you're in now, it doesn't have as many walls as maybe some of those earlier organizations that you were in with the management, or is it sort of the same? Is it not really helping?
Yeah, I would say I think they really have done a lot in the wake of everything that happened with George Floyd in 2020. I really appreciate the way our company kind of faced things head on and really started having one-on-one conversations between managers, amongst teams, really just talking about race in a very open way that I've never seen at any other company I've worked at.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Is there a group or is there a person that leads the whole charge in that organization that heads up DE&I and diversity, inclusion, that sort of thing? Or is it a committee?
I know there's the gentleman they hired who's leading it. We might also have an employee resource group. I'm trying to remember, but I feel like we do also have an employee resource group that's kind of more of like the committee that's focused on that.
Cool. Yeah, I was just curious how companies are dealing with that these days. Thank you.
One of the things, Brittany, that you had mentioned during your talk was the fact of putting together the pieces of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very interesting because so often we have it where we kind of get to a certain part in our career or in life, and we've put together maybe 5 or 6 pieces, but then there's so many other pieces over here that are actually intertwined or connected to it that we never have a chance to reach out to. Talk to us a little bit about putting those pieces of the puzzle together. I mean, because you went from industry to industry. What made you feel comfortable going from beauty to real estate? But, again, what were the pieces of the puzzle that kind of worked for you?
Yeah, I think for me, it was taking industry out. Like, I know industry does play a factor in how like your strategy will roll out. But I think the way I would approach marketing is just conceptually, okay, this is marketing. Like take out the industry. I can learn the industry and how this industry works and does that. But like, how can I use my own experience, skills, the tools I have to drive the strategy? And that's always been kind of my focus. Also, just like, because I've had like a natural just curiosity to how things work or why they work. I would go read like especially when I went from the cosmetic company to the healthcare company, which were like completely different. And one was B2C, the other was focused B2B. I would just spend a lot of time reading, understanding, even talking to people at the healthcare company to understand more about what it is they did, how do we reach customers, and spending that extra time on my own, just reading and researching. That's what really helped me piece together the pieces and would inform my strategy.
Excellent. No, thank you very much for sharing that.
Britney, first of all, thank you so much for speaking to us all. I think, your path to where you're at today is something that, all individuals need to hear. I also think that, the challenges that you shared with us as well, it's clear that it exists, right? To be passed over for a position because of race, and literally be told it, right? Oftentimes it's silent. It just happens. I am a father of 2 daughters. Okay. They're ages 17, almost 18. So I almost have an adult and a 15-year-old. And I would ask you, I mean, as they go into this workforce, right, as Black women, what advice would you give them about dealing with the workforce and handling the fact that they are indeed Black women in any industry? Any guidance?
I would say, some people may disagree, but I don't try to focus too much on the fact that I am a Black woman and, whatever company I'm at. I like to focus more on the fact that I know I love marketing. I'm very passionate. I know the value I bring. And I just try to keep that in mind. I would say the other thing is just making connections with other people and being comfortable with interacting with people that may not look like you, because at least in my reality, that's been my case, like at every company. I think there's only been one other company where there were 3 of us on the team of 15, but most of the time I was the only one. And so I would encourage them, don't be scared to make new friends or connections with people that may not look like you, but also don't focus so much on the fact that, you are a Black woman in the workforce. You're a woman who brings value. You're smart, you're talented in whatever you do, regardless of your race.
Great. Thank you.
And, of course, Matt, I love that. I think this is probably the only category that I have you kind of outnumbered, because I have 3 daughters. So outside of that, I'm probably losing, but this one category I'm winning. And I would say, in having these daughters, explaining to them and understanding, making sure they understand their value, just as a person, first and foremost, I always believe is critical. And then being able to have being able to explore and feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable. So regardless if somebody looks like you, if they're the same race, color, sex does not matter. Sit back and explore, and sit back and be open to everything and all things. And so I think being able, so like, for example, right now, Brittany, you're there in Paris, and you're having fun in Paris. You're meeting a lot of different people in Paris by far. Again, there's different accents. This, again, be okay with being, that in that uncomfortable to become comfortable, knowing that it's a little different, and that's not a problem, because different does not mean better or worse. It just means the fact that it's different. And it's kind of like having a different flavor. I love going to the ice cream spot and seeing 20,000 different flavors. And so while I might choose one, a lot of times I like to taste one or two others.
I would say, like I said earlier about just can never stop learning. I always tell people that. One time I had a coworker ask me about that. She was like, Brittany, I always see like there's always some new thing coming out and you're learning it, and you're doing that. She's like, is there ever a point where you stop, or you feel you've learned it all? And I said, no. That's the thing. Like in this industry, I feel like you don't have an option or a choice to just say, okay, I've learned it all, I'm done. Like, no, because the second you do that, it changes. So just never stop learning, never stop being curious. And that's what'll keep you growing.
What I've loved today about, some of the things that you mentioned is the fact is you're still having fun. And I think that that's a critical part of, of all of our work lives. When you get to a point where you're doing something and you're just doing it and it's solely just to pay the bills and you're pretty much miserable inside, it shows. Right now, based off of your smile and your, again, your energy, we can clearly see that you're still having fun, which is wonderful. And when you're comfortable, people know. So again, so best of luck to the continuously climbing up the corporate ladder and staying, staying engaged and having fun. And we want to say thank you so much for, being our guest speaker.
I love hearing people's stories. So yeah, we got Sunday, kicking off Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But I know, Sean, you're going to be there. Matt, I know you're going to be there. And Chad, are you going to be there? And the reason why I'm asking is because we do have Daymond John keynoting Monday morning, which is going to be really, really great. Matt's going to get a chance to meet Daymond prior to his keynote, but I do want to set up, 4 more people with a meet and greet after Daymond's. I got you. And he's good. And you're going to be coughing on Daymond John in the thing to get a meet and greet. But I'd love to get a couple more. So what I did, if Earl or Chad, you're going to be there, I'd love to include you two on it as well. I also put a post up on LinkedIn right now asking people to comment if they're I'm going to select a couple people from that, whoever comments on that post. But we've got the DE&I breakfast that Monday morning from 8 to 8:30. It's at the Arlo restaurant. I hope you guys that are attending too can go. It'll be great to connect with the women of MarTech and Blacks and Lead Generation all in one venue. So it's gonna be really, really cool. And then and then Daymond John, and we go from there.